This is a volunteer sunflower. Got a real pretty sunflower up there. You can see how tall they are getting. That's a tall sunflower, folks. And look at all the heads that it's going to put on. I'm not sure you can really capture that. There's a lot of flower heads.
Making some dill pickles. But look, let me show you first. I got this beauty at the auction. Yep, I work at an auction here in town, and it has the lid. So excited about that. So the first thing we're gonna do is put this plethora of cucumbers that we have in the jar. So here we go. There's no special way to do it, is there? Just get them all in there. We have a ton. The other day I picked 17 pounds of cucumbers. We have our cucumbers in the pot already, and now we're just gonna add our water and our salt. We're gonna go ahead and put the salt in the water before we put it in the jug. It is a quart of water, which is 4 cups, and it's 1 tablespoon per cup. And we're gonna go ahead and pour that right in. So this jug's pretty big, so we're gonna have to do a couple of these quarts. We're just gonna do the same thing until we get it to where we want it. Just putting some dill up in here. I like dill. This dill is fresh from our garden. So it calls for 3 bay leaves. I got a half of one here in my hand, so we're just gonna get these down in there. 4 whole cloves. We have these handy dandy weights that we typically use in the ball jars, but we're gonna use them in this, and we're gonna use 3 of them in here because of the amount and the size of this jug. We need to use the weights to keep the cucumbers submerged. Put the cheesecloth over it, and there we go.
These jalapeno peppers are doing really good. Let's harvest some of those. That's pretty nice. It's been 2 or 3 days since I've picked beans in this little bitty patch right here. I am confident there is going to be a significant yield right here. We are a small urban homestead right in the middle of a subdivision in southeast Georgia. Houses are pretty close together. This lot is probably about 1/4 of an acre. But we're committed to growing a lot of food. This little bitty patch of green beans has produced, up until today, 72 pints of green beans that we've canned. And the goal is right around 100 pints. So that right there, that's our bean harvest for today. Without question, that right there will finish the 100 pints that we desire to keep for the year. There are still beans on this plant, and there are blossoms which will create additional beans on this plant. I would say there's 2 to 3 more harvests off of this little patch of beans. The point I really want to drive home is that this seemingly small, insignificant bed of green beans is producing a lot of food. That's what we're doing right here at our urban homestead. Is we're creating a lot of food, folks. It's my hope that this encourages you to take a chance on yourself. Go buy a few seeds. Put together a little raised bed or dig a little spot in your soil right in your front yard. Plant some food. I think it'll change your life. Just go get one cucumber plant and plant that. And feed your family. Give us a thumbs up on this video right now. We're gonna wait for you. We appreciate that. Now Noel and I sat on the front porch last night and we snapped all those beans and we just put them in bags, put them in the fridge overnight so we could get to them today. We're gonna start canning them. Simple process, real simple. Just fill your jars up with beans. I like to kind of tap the jars. That'll help get those beans down in there and settle them in the jar. And then fill the rest of the jar up. And I like to push my beans down in there and make sure that the jar is nice and full. If you do not pack the beans in there very well, after the processing is done, after it's been canned, you'll find that you have a lot of beans at the top of the jar and a lot of water at the bottom. Now this is called a raw pack method. The beans have not been heated, they've not been scalded at all. These are just raw green beans. It's really important to keep the beans below the 1-inch mark on your jar. So this rim here is your 1-inch mark. Keep the beans below that, and that's where you're going to bring your water up to. After you get all the beans packed into your jars, you want to put about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt per jar. We're going to start adding our boiling water to our jars. Make sure you have a canning funnel. That's going to make your life so much easier. Like I said, what we're doing is fill it up just below this line, or just to this line. That's your 1-inch mark on the jars. That gives you 1-inch head space. After we've got water in all the jars, I like to go through and just give them a tap. And that helps release any kind of air bubbles that might be trapped in the beans. You could also use a wooden skewer. My grandmother used to do that I find the tapping method works just fine. So you can use a wooden skewer and just kind of poke down in there, and that'll help release any air bubbles. I like to just get through and tap them. That seems to work pretty well. Now take a moist towel and wipe the rim off of all of your jars. Just make sure there's no contamination there. Sometimes you can get a little grain of salt on the rim of those jars, and that little grain of salt will cause the jar to not seal. So we just want to make sure that that's contaminant free. Just give it a wipe. Now we're going to go through and put our lids on. Ball says that you don't have to boil your lids anymore to soften the ring. It said that you can just put it straight on there. Now we're going to go through and put our rings on the jars. Give them a good tightening and put them in your pressure canner. This is an all-American pressure canner. If you're going to can beans and peas and things like that, you have to have a pressure canner. I like to have a rag because those jars can get hot. When you're pressure canning, you can stack your jars, but you have to have a divider in between your jars. There's about 2 inches of water in the bottom of this. That's all you need for pressure canning. You do not have to cover your jars. Matter of fact, you don't want to cover your jars. Unlike water bath canning, where the entire jar must be submerged in the liquid or in the water, with pressure canning, we're canning with steam. High pressure steam. Once we have all the jars in the canner, we'll close it up and seal it up. And we're going to allow it to vent. Alright, so now that we've been venting for a little while, we will put our weight on, and once that starts to jiggle and release a little pressure, we'll turn the heat down. Okay, now you see our canner is up to 10 pounds of pressure. We'll turn the heat down to about half, and we just want this to jiggle just a little bit every now and then. The main thing is maintaining 10 to 11 pounds of pressure. So that's it, folks. There's our beans. They are finished. They're all sealed. It is recommended that you remove the band before you store your jars, because you can get a false seal leaving the band on there, and nobody wants that. That has potential to make you sick. So take the bands off before you store them. Get you a pressure canner, grow some green beans, and can them. It's an excellent alternative to going to the grocery store and buying what they have. The taste is a whole lot better, and you're going to know what went into these green beans. And most importantly, you will put your family first by growing and canning green beans. If you'd like to know more about canning food or preserving food or growing food for yourself and for your family in a small urban homestead, just like what we have right here, subscribe to our channel and click the bell notification button. That'll let you know when we put out new content.